All right, guys. Chris, John, as always, but we're here with Chris Brewster. Chris has done a lot of amazing shit. To be honest, I looked at your IMDb profile, and there's like so much on there. I know I'm gonna like not hit everything. But what some of your longer running stuff you did, like Teen Wolf,
Yep.
not the '80s movie, which would be way cooler if you did. But although I
He
think
didn't have
you'd
a time
been
machine,
a little
though,
young,
yeah.
The TV show. I mean, many seasons of the TV show, and
right?
into the feature film that just came out a few weeks ago, and then
Oh, sure, brag, whatever.
Wolfpack,
Like,
which is kind of like the next generation. They're not really connected per se, but I mean,
So it's not on the. It's not based on the show.
No, so Wolfpack, a lot of people think that it's a spin-off or, a reimagination of the Teen Wolf story. Wolfpack is completely different. It's a completely different story. It just, came from the same writer, showrunner, from the same minds. Jeff Davis made both.
gotcha.
But it's got a completely different tone and feel, and a very, very different story. They're both awesome.
So about the Teen Wolf thing, because we're old, like I know nothing about Teen Wolf. I really don't. Like CW, right?
No, MTV.
MTV.
Oh, MTV. My bad. I just assumed CW because it was like moody teenagers making out or whatever. No, I'm just kidding. No. So the question, does it have like zero to do with the movies before? Like, is it like a edgy recreation of those, or like Bel Air kind of thing?
It's definitely a reimagination. I mean, it's so
okay.
Jeff Davis basically takes an idea. And I mean, he's like just this mastermind genius that creates universes. So he can take a tiny idea and make it into the most
right. So it is like Werewolf in High School, probably less like slam dunky, like
yeah, no
styles,
no basketball, but there's there's a lot of lacrosse.
Okay,
yeah.
So same kind of idea where he's like better at it because
Exactly. Yeah. You still, it's still a story about not one character, but multiple characters who are becoming werewolves, and just enhances parts of their lives, but then causes other drama and issues throughout their normal life.
Right.
So it's kind of like every character,
like cheerleaders having litters of puppies.
I think that would be better on Animal Planet, not MTV.
That would actually you know what? They can have that idea for free. If is it still running? I'm not.
The TV show's not still running.
But the movies that they're doing now, yeah.
They did Teen Wolf, the movie, and I mean, it's the #1 movie that Paramount Plus has ever had. So
nice.
I'm sure there's going to be many more Teen Wolf movies to come, and now Wolfpack is like one of their biggest TV shows of all time. So hopefully we get another season of that too.
Right. So you gotta love the fact that you're jumping into like long running franchises, because that's just a constant like steady paycheck, right?
Well, absolutely. Well, especially when it's a long running franchise with a team and a family that I like.
Right. Oh yeah, because if it's somebody you don't, then
yeah, I've been involved with a lot of projects that have gone like long term and everything, but it wasn't like the most exciting work experience. At this point in my career, I really try to gravitate towards the people that I like working with. So when you're with a team and a family that you really enjoy, getting long runs and bigger shows is always a blessing.
Right. Well, so you're steady enough with work that is this the only thing you do now? Like, do you have any kind of like day job or?
I've been doing stunts for almost 20 years now, and at this point, like my career has kind of gone from stunt performing to a lot more stunt coordinating and action design, and now I'm getting a lot more opportunities to direct. I mean, second unit directing, and even
I saw that
main unit directing spots.
So I did have actually a question in the title department. What is the difference between stunts on your IMDb profile and like utility stunts?
Well, stunts is the general term that covers everything. Within stunts, there's either stunt doubling, stunt performing, where you're actually playing a character that's a little bit of acting, a little bit of stunts. You could be doing utility stunts, which sometimes is as simple as, spotting other stunt performers doing things, helping with the rigging. That there's rigging stunts where you're actually hooking people on the lines and making people fly through the air.
Gotcha.
Utility stunts, and like ND or nondescript stunts kind of cover everything. So if you're not doubling a main character, and if you're not playing a specific character in the show, then you go down as stunts or utility stunts.
Gotcha. Well, I kind of noticed that the ones that were utility stunts are the like not so action packed shows, like Modern Family listed like utility stunts, and I'm like, I don't know, would you fall up the stairs once, or you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, usually
like that kind of stuff.
That might be if if you see a bunch of cars come sliding up to a stop or something.
Right.
A lot of times it'll just be a utility stunt person to come in and slide a car.
Right. I got you. Yeah. No, I figured it was something like that, just because, like I said, I noticed it was on the like where you go. They had stunt people for that show, like
Yep.
Like it's just a bunch of people sitting on a couch. Like, okay, but that makes sense if it's like a car near accident thing.
Ty Burrell's not gonna go ahead and fall down a flight of stairs. Come on.
He might. You never know.
You never know.
Speaking of, actually, that reminded me of like specifically one of my like points that I always wanted. See, this is what I do. I just tangent around. But how do you feel generally about like the actors who want to do their own stunts, because obviously they're not doing everything, but like, and then also like that it always gets reported as like this, awesome thing about them that they do their own stunts, when it's like, you're there, you're a professional, you obviously know how to do it safely. Why the hell are they trying to do it on their own? You know what I mean? Like there's no benefit.
Yeah, well, and there's definitely a huge gimmick to it. I've got a lot of friends who have made massive careers being stunt doubles for people who do their own stunts.
Right.
And, it's entertaining. A lot of times, even when actors do their own stunts, they have a stunt double that will go and they'll test the gag over and over and over and make sure every piece of the gag is completely foolproof and safe and ready before they put the actor in. At the end of the day, it's like, stunt performers, this is our our career. We've spent entire lives building up our skill set specifically for the physical side of the storytelling.
Yeah.
Whereas actors spend the majority of their career, working on how to convey emotion through their dialogue or their facial expression.
Right, exactly. Their face,
stuff like that. So at absolute best, they've spent 5% of the time that we've spent actually doing stunt things. So no matter what, you'll never get the same performance.
Oh no, it would be way better physically if you're doing it,
Yeah.
Like Harrison Ford's old ass doesn't need to be jumping around doing stuff like what an automatic like sliding door took him out for like 6 months. Come on,
dude. You know he's grumpy. You sure you want to be bashing Harrison Ford? I don't want to be seen.
But I agree. I know that end of things where it's a little like they do their own stunts, because people often like, because I don't know if you checked, but like I've done like stunt driving in the past, right? And the thing is like I never like to answer the question. I mean, I see yours is different where it does say like you're doubled for this person. I hate when people ask me specifically like, oh, who were you driving for? Because if I'm doing my job right, you never see me doing it. And a lot of these guys like at least want the even if they're not claiming they did their own driving, like they want the mystery of like people leaving the theater going like, oh, I wonder if so and so drives the cars themselves.
Yeah, it's definitely.
So I'm like, I drove some cars. Like I'm like, all right, in the Fast and the Furious franchise, like all I'm gonna say is I like American muscle and just leave it at that. You can decide,
Yeah. You're like, I'll give you a clue, but
yeah, I'm not a big like Euro racer guy, so that narrows it down a bit.
Yeah,
I mean, at the end of the day, I think if for a stunt person, your job is to make sure that you're not noticed over the actor, right?
Yeah, I mean, which it's funny. I know there's a lot of commotion over stunt people getting more recognition and vying for different awards and everything. But you're right; it completely goes against everything that we've always been trained. Like we're here to create the fantasy world that the person we're doubling is doing what we're actually doing.
Right.
So as far as like stunt performing, I don't think that that necessarily is something that needs to happen. But I do think that the coordinators who keep everybody safe, I mean, that is an art form. And, at the end of the day, we're pretty much the only department that is like putting our life on the line on a very regular basis.
Of course, yeah.
Unfortunately, everybody on set at some point or another can be put in a spot that, I mean, unfortunately, there have been accidents where every department has been in jeopardy or in danger. But I mean, as a stunt person, your day-to-day job involves heavy risk. So
yeah. You can rig it as safely as possible, and things can still go wrong. I mean,
absolutely, yeah. It's calculated risk. We try to find the safest way to perform something, but it's not a perfect science. And at the end of the day, there's certain things that you're like, okay, even at best, this is going to hurt. At worst, I could end up in the hospital. So here we go.
I think that John had a user question that was like kind of based in that.
Which
with the injury talk, like things
let me see.
happening.
I've got a list here. Give me a moment.
But all right, that's fine. So in the meantime, though, I do. I kind of love it. I'm sure that it's not from the technical and background thing when somebody looks so badly doubled for somebody that's doing a stunt where it's like, okay, that's a clear just like horrible wig on like a ripped dude for like a chubby guy like stunt. Like, I mean, how often does that, I mean, when that happens, obviously it's a necessity, they need somebody who can do the stunt. But I mean, how closely do they really try to get the look, or is it just like, oh, Chris can do that stunt, slap a black wig on him and push his ass out?
Well, it's funny because at the end of the day, a stunt coordinator's job is to find the closest double. You want to find, the right height, weight, the right ethnicity, right. The right tone of skin. You want to find someone whose hair naturally is as close to the person you're doubling. But the most important factor will always be, maintaining safety. So,
can they do it? Can they do it safely? Right.
Yeah. There's situations like, hey, we need, this actor to get on a motorcycle and pull a wheelie and go flying down the road. You might be able to find a perfect match for somebody who's never been on a motorcycle before.
Right.
But if they haven't been able to do this stuff
at all, that, you feel fully confident they'll be able to protect themselves, the motorcycle, and everybody in the vicinity. I mean, even people around, the cameras and stuff, they could be in danger if you put the wrong person behind the wheel or in a dangerous spot.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, we always do our best, considering the obstacles that we're working with. A lot of times it's like, okay, well, production needs a local hire because they're not going to pay to fly somebody in and put them up. We're shooting 2 days.
Would they, in that, just to question that, like, if there's some stunt that's like very difficult, and say you're the only guy that like they think is successful, I mean, would they bring you out? Depends on where, I guess.
Yeah, it depends on where. It depends on the producers in the show. We've definitely experienced situations where, we're like, okay, this right here. Actually, when we were on Teen Wolf, we had a woman driver who had to do a very difficult driving sequence into a big car smash. And
don't make me put the stroller up.
Okay. Well, okay. So, yeah, women drivers crashing cars. Got it.
We needed somebody who was amazing, and the best woman driver that was in about the right proportions, height, weight, and the closest to the actress's look. She Asia Frary, she's actually from Los Angeles now. She was a New York performer, now she's Los Angeles, but literally one of the best drivers in the world. And we basically told the producers, hey, we're not going to have a local hire do this. We need Asia.
Right.
And so they were like, yeah, without question. So they flew her out to do that specific stunt. Then there were another few stunts on the same show that were not quite as specific, where we said, okay, we can find a closer look double if we don't go local. And they were like, no, just get the closest match you can, as long as you're confident that they're safe.
Well, yeah, because that starts adding up all the travel.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's like you
plus you got to put them up somewhere, right? Like, I mean, you can't just be like, hey, you're going to be homeless for a week while we do these stunts.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, it's
So-
there's always the balance, and how important that specific gag is, how skill specific that gag is, and really how dangerous it is. Because if it's one of those things like, hey, if we spend 3 times the amount of money and bring in the perfect person for this, they might be able to do it without getting a single bruise. If we bring somebody, and save
right.
save the money, they might end up with a bruise on their knee or something. The producer's like, that's fine. We don't
that you guys expect to get a little bumped up. It's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But if you tell them, hey, this is like, either an elite stunt person can walk away from this, but we're gonna have to fly them in, or somebody else might not be able to walk away from the stunt. We need to spend the money, and then they'll usually spend it.
Like
Chris,
in your case,
we
real
do.
quick,
Sorry, Chris.
I was just going to hit one last part that actually relates to this real fast.
Okay, go ahead.
So in your case, right, where you're on longer running things, and you tend to work as specific characters, like let's just say the Charlie Cox Daredevil thing, or Captain America or Mobius, whatever, right? Would they are they more likely to bring you out if it's shooting on different locations, since you've sort of have to become that character? Like you have specific movements. Like, I mean, you start embodying that character, right? So
Up until recently, I would have said absolutely. The first 3 seasons of Daredevil, even though I wasn't a local hire, they were like, no, you're the guy. And
okay.
The fact that Charlie requested me, and because I helped kind of create the character, it was a no-brainer. So
So are you telling us you're not part of the relaunch?
I found out a week ago that I'm not. I'm not going to be part of Reborn.
Well, that's bull crap, man.
Or Born Again. Yeah. So, and that's one of those situations where, I could not be more invested in the charter.
I say we get Charlie on the phone right now. And be like,
he fought. Trust me. There's no actor in the world that fights for their stunt double as much as Charlie does. So
yeah,
I don't need to know the conversations that were had. I just know that he was fighting, tooth and nail to make it happen. And I didn't even get an interview for the job. They literally went out and they hired a guy who has never worked on the show.
Oh my gosh,
is not the same style as the show. Just
we need to get a letter writing campaign for you, man.
Yeah, no. Well, you know what? I'm go ahead and comment on the show page here. Let's get Chris on board here.
Yeah. All right, John, go ahead and throw out to a user.
Right. This is a live question that came in the chat here. He wants to know if gun safety is the thing you ever worry about, or is it different than stunts or coordinator dealt with someone else? Is it through the prop master, or that kind of thing?
Oh, well, it's something that there are many people on set that need to worry about gun safety. Stunt coordinator is absolutely one of them. Anytime there's any piece of action involving firearms, we have to check and make sure they're safe. Even if they're foam guns, we sit there and we inspect every single gun used. If there's 100 people shooting guns, we go through every single one of the guns. There's a prop master that is always, there specifically to focus on the props, but it also falls into the stunt coordinator's responsibility, the first AD's responsibility. There are many people that need to be aware and on top of the gun safety. There's a lot of things that can go wrong, as we have found out. And
it's not often, but when it happens, we definitely hear about it.
Exactly.
Oh yeah,
exactly.
Sure. And we do have one user submitted question that kind of ties into to Chris's line of question regarding your Marvel work and work with Daredevil, things like that. And they want to know, are you America's ass?
Yeah, were you? It's a burning question, burning hot.
So, funny and true story. When I was doubling Chris Evans, they built the superhero suits and everything, and to fill the suit out the right way, they ended up taking a muscle suit and cutting it in half and giving him the bottom half and me the top half. So kind of gave me his shoulders and his chest, and and gave him, kind of a little more glutes.
Gave him your ass. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
Are you saying you are naturally America's ass, but he had to fake it up?
Well, and then there was the other stunt double for Captain America on that one was Sam Hargrave, and I don't think they gave him any part of a muscle suit because he literally put on like 20 or 30 pounds for that show, and I mean the two of us, me and Chris Evans, ended up wearing muscle suits to catch up to Sam. So
Oh wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I know you mentioned that you kind of developed the Daredevil character. So one of my questions was going to be like how involved you are sort of in that process. And if that's a normal level, if you kind of develop that, because I noticed even down to the fact, having watched, the Captain America fights and watching the Daredevil fighting, like, I don't know how much of it was like you were involved in or not, but I noticed they're very different fighting styles. Where like Captain America is more of like a, one hit knockdown. He's like super strong, and Daredevil clearly is not. He's not physically super powered. So he's more of a, like, I've noticed like a defensive fighter in terms of like trying not to get his ass beat too bad while also precisely delivering hits,
Yeah, Daredevil. I mean, Daredevil has no super strength or any like healing abilities, whereas Captain America is, he's on the super soldier serum. I mean, he is stronger, he is faster, he is more agile than any other human. Daredevil doesn't have that, so we absolutely had to take that into account when kind of designing both characters and how they move. In fact, when we were on Captain America, the Russo brothers really wanted to see like Raid Redemption style action. And we're like, well, yes, we Raid Redemption's an amazing movie, completely wrong for this character because like in Raid Redemption, the Eco Waste has to hit somebody 15 times, maybe 20 times just to take them out. Captain America punches a heavy bag one time, it gets broken in half and goes flying across the room. He holds motorcycles over his head with one hand. If he punched somebody 15 times, they would be dust.
Right. So how open to those kind of feedback things are directors and producers normally? I mean, I guess it would depend on the person, but like
100% changes show to show. I've had some producers who really just have their own vision and just want to do what's on the paper and do not want any input whatsoever. But then I've been on shows like Daredevil, and I contribute a lot of the success of Daredevil to how open the entire team was. Stephen DeKnight was the showrunner of Daredevil. And I mean, he was one of the most collaborative geniuses that I've ever met. I mean, he created Spartacus. Like, if there's anyone who should have an ego going into a show like Daredevil, it should be him. And he came in with no ego. He literally was like, okay, I love this, and brought the whole family in. And everybody who had an opinion, they chimed in, and the family made that show what it was. When I talked to Stephen DeKnight about Daredevil as a character, he was like very open. He had a lot of really, really amazing ideas. Like, this is how I see it. This is the character that I'm trying to express. On every show that I've ever been a part of, I like to take the script, find the character, and try to play the character through punches and kicks. The way an actor will break down their character and kind of study how they would speak, how they would hold themselves, what their natural posture was like, that kind of stuff. I try to do the same thing. Like, this character would be an aggressive fighter, so his stance is going to be a little more like, chest forward, hands up. If he's not afraid to take a hit, if you're Captain America and you can't get hurt, you don't really have to be guarded all the time. You can kind of come into it more, more proud, chin up, chest out kind of stuff. You can be more of like a matador where, you're kind of putting on a show when you're fighting because you don't have to worry about protecting. So I always do that myself. What made Daredevil different as far as the character design and the physical movement was on the first day of filming, Charlie pulled me aside and he was like, hey, let's talk. And he brought me into his world. He was like, okay, so I love everything that you're showing me with the choreography. here's how I see Daredevil. I see him like this. Even though he's blind, he's like, your average person would kind of play the blind vigilante, not really looking at what he's doing. But because as Daredevil, he doesn't
the radar and
know that he's blind. So he's like, we're going to look people straight in the face, because even though I can't like see them, I need them to think that I'm looking them dead in the eyes. So, which made the stunts a lot easier. I didn't have to do everything.
Yeah.
Being distracted. But like he really, really added so much depth to how I saw his character, which in turn added so much depth to the character that I was able to portray within the choreography. And whether I was doing the moves or whether Charlie was doing the moves, I would kind of design every punch that he threw. And the more that Charlie and I kind of bonded with how we saw the character, the easier it was for me to say, okay, he would naturally do this. He would, this is where he would smirk.
Right, like you fell into being Daredevil, and yeah. So I know that you talk up, like, obviously Charlie Cox is an awesome guy, like hearing what you're saying, but how do you not get like a giant ego when every single report coming out of it, everything like where people were talking about how great the show was all the stuff you were doing? Was all the fighting was like not just the fighting, but when they go, the hallway fight scene that makes the whole show, like it made it worth watching. Like, so like, how do you not just walk into it going like, yeah, that's right.
Guy. It's simple, because at the end of the day, no matter how many reports and articles and things have talked about all of those fight sequences, they can do a show and not bring me back. So
obviously, which is again,
I mean, like I have to tell you, it's such an honor that people recognize the stuff that I've done, and again, stunt people, we sign that contract expecting to live in the shadows, so we are not expecting any form of recognition or
it would be nice to get awards though for you guys, like legitimately. Once that got brought up, I was like, you know what, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, dude, costume design gets fucking awards. Like, really, the guys like risking their health and life every day? No, not so much. Okay, cool.
Well, I will say, I mean, season 3 finished. When we finished season 3 Daredevil, I ended up I tore my Achilles. I had a broken leg. I got a pylon fracture where like the heel bone actually like shoots into the tibia and like breaks it from the inside.
Good Lord, man.
I was pretty jacked up from season 3, and when that finished and they were like, okay, well, we're not going to be up for any awards. We're not gonna, I'm like, oh, that kind of stinks, but at the time I was like, okay, well, we might not be up for awards.
I mean, I assume that they cover your injuries. Yes. Like I assume that on top of your pay, you also get medical coverage.
Oh yes.
Is that like, are you guys union? Like not SAG necessarily. Are you part of SAG? Or you
SAG? Yeah.
Okay.
Some performers still fall under SAG, so we've got good
decent
insurance,
health coverage. Right.
Yeah, used to be like the top of the line, but it's still good.
America's health system, right? So we have a viewer question kind of relating to what Chris was talking about, the hallway scene. What are some of the differences between a standard fight scene and like a one shot in the hallway? Like what type of
I have to imagine that's more stressful, right? Because if you screw up at the end,
well, so I mean, if you're doing proper coverage of a fight scene and you get the first 99 out of 100 moves perfectly and then mess up on the last move, it's fine. You just do a pickup of that last move and you've got it. It's in the can. It's perfect. When you're doing a one shot and you get the first 99 moves right, and then that 100th move is a miss or just doesn't look strong or there's something that's off about it, you got to start all over. So the main difference is you not only are having to memorize the movements, like there's always a dance that goes on between performers. So if two people are fighting, a profile shot, if somebody's punching, this way from a profile, you're always going to see a gap in between the punch and the face. So it'll never sell where you want it to. Like, you'd either have to stack the punch this way or do something to make it work. When the cameras are static, you look, you see where the cameras are, and you just know kind of where to put the moves. The dance is really just between those two performers. Once you bring a camera in and you're trying to do it for a one shot, that camera is moving, and now it's a three-way dance. Because not only do you have to stack the punch, but you have to stack the punch for a moving camera. So you have to know where the camera is at all times, and then constantly be adjusting your body so that every one of your hits and reactions sells for wherever the camera is.
Now, when you're doing rehearsal for that, are you also choreographing around the camera as well as your fellow stunt performer? Is that part of it?
So one area that I consider like one of my specialties is stunt previs. We actually shoot the entire sequences. So like some people, some directors prefer it this way, and some stunt people, just prefer just shooting a big wide, kind of like a reference, like here's the choreography. My team is always very big on previs, so we shoot it the way it should look in the final edit. So we design the camera movement, how each move will sell. We find like the best shot for each thing. So if we're doing a one shot, we start with the camera movement, choreographing, around what we're doing, and we get that dance dialed in right off the bat. So then we end up kind of, filming it ourselves, and then if the director and producers like it, how it looks, then we end up training one of the other camera guys, like one of the show camera guys, what the camera movements
to be specifically in those spots. Yeah,
exactly.
Very cool.
So I heard, and you can tell me obviously if this is true or not, but I heard originally you were going to also be doubling for Iron Fist, but then they were like, all right, we're paying to get Finn Jones, we're showing Finn Jones's face, and so that just kind of went to the wayside. Is that accurate, or
there's some accuracy there? I was offered to double Iron Fist. Ironically,
would have been way better.
What got me the job as Daredevil stunt double? We shot a concept reel, and the first concept reel we shot was an Iron Fist concept reel. And we just wanted to show this is how Iron Fist could move in our version of Iron Fist, and we sent it into all of the Marvel Netflix producers and stuff, and they responded. They said, we absolutely love it, but just so you know, our first show is going to be Daredevil. We'd actually love to send you guys the pilot script, and see if you'd like to do the same thing, see if you can make like a concept for how Daredevil would fight. So then, and this is before I even knew that Charlie was cast, I just put on a mask and played the Daredevil role. We sent that in, and they were like, this is perfect. We want this stunt team, and we want Brewster to double our main character. I'm like, awesome. Nice. Who is it? And then there were still a couple of weeks before they actually announced that it was Charlie Cox. So I had no idea who I was doubling. I'm just like, okay, I'm going to.
Oh, so they don't give you like a heads up beforehand? Like,
I mean, I ended up having a good couple of weeks or maybe a month before we started shooting where I knew that I was doubling Charlie. But I mean, there was a gap in between.
But they are worried about leaks as
and
well.
Here's who you're doubling.
Yeah. That's funny.
So when with you and the team, because I noticed on your profile it said you'd been doing martial arts since you were 4.
My daughter as well.
What type of martial arts would you say are kind of key to your success as a stunt person?
Well, what did you do at 4? Out of curiosity, which kind?
So at 4, I did a program called Ninja Kids.
Okay.
It definitely treads the line of a real martial arts class. It's it's made for 4-year-olds.
Well, 4-year-olds, it's more about the discipline, less about the moves.
Exactly.
Right?
It teaches the life skills in a way that is disguised as a karate class. But literally the instructor would say, okay, here's a punch. Everyone throw a punch. Okay, do it again. Good. Go touch that wall. Okay, come over here. Do a push-up. Good. Now climb that rope. It was a very, it was made specifically for children with no attention span, but it instilled a love for the martial arts. So at 4 years old, I'm like, I love karate. I knew that I loved karate. I was doing really bad punches and kicks, but to me, I was a ninja. I was amazing.
All of our kids, like both of our kids, are also have been in it since then.
Yeah, it is an amazing thing for children. As far as
my daughter's 8 and going to be a black belt here in June.
Awesome! Congratulations.
Yeah,
that's. I mean, honestly, the martial arts have completely changed my life over and over for the better. They kept me out of a lot of trouble in high school. I went into my karate school and I was teaching my version of the Ninja Kids class. I started training over at Sharky's Karate under the instructor John Sharkey. So we had the Little Sharks, which was like a 3 to 5 year old karate program. And same thing, it was just something to get the kids to start loving the martial arts. But when I was teaching that class, I started realizing if I walked into class with like a backwards hat or with my pants sagging or something like that, the kids would start mimicking me. So I realized how important it was to lead by example and, show the kids the right way to do things and stuff. So, I mean, it really kept me, on the right path through most of my life. And then the martial arts led me into the stunt world. Once I did the kids program, I got into like Tung Sudo and Taekwondo, got into karate, a bunch of traditional martial arts. But then I found XMA. XMA is like extreme martial arts.
Yeah.
So it's like if you were to divide all the martial arts in the world into 2 categories, there's MMA, all the stuff that really works on the street, and then XMA, all the stuff that looks freaking cool. Yeah, so I mean, a lot of what we do, we take from dance or from gymnastics and acrobatics, and we pull in all these other ideas and concepts. Whereas in MMA, you're either punching like a boxer where your shoulders are rolled forward and your chin's down, you're kind of, in nice and tight.
Yep.
Or traditional martial art, like traditional Japanese martial arts, will have you throw all your punches towards your solar plexus. But the thing is, punching to a solar plexus, this doesn't really make the cleanest and strongest line. So we apply like dance theories where straight lines and more extension always looks better. So we kind of make the martial arts a little bit more aesthetic to the eye. So I did XMA, competed worldwide for 18 years, and had 13 world titles in martial arts. That was, I do forms, which is like kind of like a gymnastics routine, but with chops and punches. And then I fought. I did continuous fighting and point fighting. I did weapons, kind of a little bit of everything.
Yeah, that's my daughter loves the tournaments, and she does like all 7 things every time, like both extreme and like the thing. Yeah, it's funny because one year she got like all gold medals on everything. So she was like, "That's right, 7 events, 7 gold medals. What's up?"
Love that.
But yeah, so she does like she went on to like demo team at one point, like the same thing. It's XMA, So like it'd be cool to see her do this kind of stuff, but I don't know if that's what she wants. But it's like for right now, she's all into it.
If it becomes something she wants to do, it is an amazing door opener because the aesthetic technique is what looks the best on camera. So I'm
just gonna call you and be like, "Yo, get her a role." That's.
Hey,
be like, bring her into your agency, buddy. No.
Yeah, like for me, I'm like Chris. I did boxing and martial arts and wrestling, the whole 9, all through high school, part of college, and my boxing coach always said that if a good boxer could defeat someone who does taekwondo more often than not, because it's more about cardio when you're and being able to last longer than the other guy. How does that apply to like stunt work?
To stunt work?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a very similar concept. In boxing, you're developing cardio because you're preparing for 12 rounds, 12 2-minute rounds. Like it's a lot on your body. It's kind of hard to explain the cardio requirements of stunt performing because there's 2 extremes. There's some days that you get to set and you're doing a fight scene for 15 hours straight. You're just kicking and punching. They call cut. You go back to 1, ready and go, and you start going again. And like you'll get a break for lunch somewhere throughout the day, but you're pretty much doing a fight for 15 hours, sometimes even longer. Then there's a different kind of cardio from the opposite. There's days where you get there and you're just standing on cement, pretty much not moving for the first 14 hours. But then in that 15th hour, hey, we need you to come out and throw your biggest move right now. No warm up, just we're ready for you. Here we go. So it's like, you need to either be able to run at a very high capacity for a 15-hour day, or you need to be able to conserve your energy and stay primed and ready for 14 hours so that in that 15th hour you can throw down and do everything that you need to do.
I gotcha. And then, what when you were doing your XMA work and things like that, how did that translate into actually getting stunt work for you? How did that happen?
So I went from competing in the extreme martial arts to doing a lot of live shows. I was part of a martial arts group called Sideswipe, and we used to travel around doing like halftime shows. We did a bunch of corporate events. Then we kind of broke into the Hollywood scene doing like America's Got Talent and the Tom Joyner Show and 30 Seconds to Fame and all the contest shows where we came on and we would be flipping and twisting and doing all of our karate stuff. Then there started being like a weird overlap where people would see us and say, hey, we want you to come in and either work on a TV show or do a commercial. And we want you to do the flippy twisty karate stuff, but we want you to do it in a fight scene. So we're going to bring on a stunt coordinator to kind of design it. So, I started just meeting all of these incredible stunt coordinators. I mean, people who are now like the biggest names in the business, just meeting them randomly doing commercials, and they'd come in and show us what we were going to do, teach us the choreography, make sure we were safe. Like if somebody got hit by a kick and had to fall over, they'd make sure we had a pad underneath us. And the second I realized that this is an actual career, I'm like, that's what I'm meant to do. And it was funny because there were 4 people on Sideswipe, and in the beginning, the other 3 were really, really pursuing the acting side very hard. They were all very successful going in that direction.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of like theater and a lot of acting stuff when I was a child. And it wasn't my thing. I'm way too physical, way too energetic. I'm not good at, just sitting and reading script for hours on end. So the second I knew that stunts was an actual career path, like that's for me. That's what I need to do.
So ADHD is a plus in stunt work, is what you're saying.
1,000,000%, absolutely.
There was speaking of the commercials thing, like there was a weird period in time where like Gap commercials and stuff were just having people do backflips in the back, like for no apparent reason. Yep. Like, were you getting in on that kind of weird shit?
I actually did a Gap commercial and did a backflip in the Gap commercial. It's actually me that you're talking about right now.
That was such a weird random time when it was like, we just want everybody in white t-shirts and khaki pants doing backflips.
The name of the commercial was Khaki's Kick.
Okay, well, yeah. Now we know.
And then
good call out.
We had, so funny thing is, I actually had an agent tell me really early on in my career, any audition I go into, they're like, even if it has nothing to do with like a physical role at all, even if it's like just a purely acting audition, throw a backflip. Just do it.
It just looks cool, and people are like, "We're gonna work that in."
It makes you stand out. But yeah, I mean, all of the commercials that I booked early on in my career, they were all action roles. We did one for Bell South that basically we were kung fu clowns, and
okay,
a massive fight scene in clown outfits. They were all just goofy fight scenes, and
amazing.
Yeah,
at least it keeps it fun, right?
Absolutely.
So I want to get to some of our viewer questions here that were submitted earlier. The big one here: what aspect of stunt work do you find most challenging?
Well, the thing that is the most challenging about the stunt world is there's no typical day. Every single job, every single day of every single job is completely different. From the stunts you'll be doing, how you have to prepare for those stunts. Sometimes, you'll be working on a feature film where you have one fight scene that you have 3 months to prepare. So for 3 months, you're just making this fight scene as crisp and detailed and just perfect in every way as you possibly can. And then the next show you go on, they'll say, okay, we need a fight scene that's just as good as that fight scene, and you're shooting it tomorrow. Ready, go. And, so you have to be ready to, throw an amazing fight scene with prep, without prep. You need to be ready to do wire stunts, fire stunts, get in a car and slide a car. There's just so many layers. And as a stunt performer, If you're doubling the main character and that character has to jump off of a bridge, you better be ready to jump off of a bridge. If they're jumping off of a bridge on fire, you better be ready for that too. And then, venturing off into fight coordinating, you're taking all of the skills that you learned as a performer, but now also adding, the storytelling aspect of, if you're this guy, how does this guy fight? If you're the hero, do I want to be more proud? Do I want to be more timid? Do I want to be more, so you're getting into storytelling, then stunt coordinating. The challenge is it's your responsibility to keep every single person on set safe, from the person who's performing the stunts to the people behind the cameras watching the stunts to, literally everything. Every person there, they're putting their trust in you. So you have to keep everybody safe.
When you're
Have you ever
working
punched a camera guy on accident?
I've through my
Or on
career
purpose?
I've punched just about everybody possible. I think I've accidentally punched an actor, a camera guy. I'm sure I've punched a director here and there.
You may have had
should
a
have listened to your input a little better, right? So I did a real quick question on the career side of things. Like, is there pretty much a standard pay rate based on just like longevity, or does it come down to like difficulty of the stunts that you're doing?
So all stunt performers, we all work through SAG. So there's a basic minimum rate that they have to pay you every day. When you do something risky, we get a stunt adjustment on top of that. So basically, you're getting paid your daily rate just to show up and be ready to do stunts. But if you do something that requires, a high level of skill or a risk, then you get paid on top of it. So, if you come in and you're just kind of hanging out and eating craft service all day, you're just getting your base rate. But if you come in and get hit by a car, it's a payday for you.
I was just kind of curious how that worked. Like if they went like, oh, that's a tougher stunt, so we gotta, I got you now.
Yeah, they always take the stunt into account, and then you get an adjustment on top of your day rate.
So somebody wanting to get into stunts, what would you suggest they focus on learning how to do? I mean, other than just the standard, like learn how to fall safely and things like that.
Well, I think the most important skill you can have as a stunt person, and the most overlooked skill you can have, is overall performance. It doesn't matter if you could throw the coolest move in the world. If the camera goes on and you just kind of get the deer in the headlights look, or, there's always a little bit of overlapping with stunts and acting.
Right.
And no matter how amazing your stunt is, if you can't play the part that you're supposed to play, it ruins the entire gag. So, there's some people who've taken really, really crazy car hits. They spin through the air and they just wreck their bodies. But in the shot leading up to the car hit, they like turn around, they see the car and they're like, oh,
right.
So it just completely throws you off. So I think that, any skill you can pick up is important. Stunts is definitely one of those areas where, there's a million things you can learn, and the more diverse you are, the better. You never know what the next job is going to require. And if you cannot do what it requires, then you're not going to get the job. So if somebody calls you up and says, hey, I'm looking for a guy who's, 5'10", looks like you do. How are you at water stuff? If I can't do water stuff, I'm okay. I'm going to call somebody else.
Right.
Okay, I need somebody who could do fire stuff. And I'm like, great. I've done full body burns. I've done this. I've done this. I've done this. So like, great. Then we're going to use you. So you want to be diverse. You want to be able to do a little bit of everything, and then find the one thing that kind of sets you above the rest.
Right. Yeah, that little bit of acting thing, like you said, is really important, because one of my favorite things to kind of notice is like in the background actors, you like for some reason the simplest things are always the worst that people are at.
He mentions this every week, Chris.
I do. Like standing in line or like eating at a restaurant are the worst things. People never like, it's like they've never eaten food or stood in a line before, because they absolutely have no idea how to act in the background. Like, they're just like, oh, I'm gonna cut the food. Like, you're like, what are you doing? You eat food like daily, I assume. Like, what is happening back there?
Well, they are in Hollywood, so you don't really know.
That's true. Speaking of being in Hollywood, like, have you found it hard, like any difficulty at all booking jobs specifically because of your location?
No, ironically, there's more work in Atlanta than anywhere in the United States.
I believe
We
that.
fell into Atlanta accidentally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my wife and I, we were bouncing back and forth between Los Angeles and New York because we lived in LA, but filmed Daredevil in New York. So we
Right.
spent half the year every year in New York. Um, and when we found out that we were having our daughter, we were like, okay, well, it's time to start thinking about where we want to raise a family and where she would go to school. And we didn't know where in Los Angeles we wanted to be and weren't sure about raising, you know, our child where we liked in New York, like the things that we loved about like Williamsburg, Brooklyn. We're like, it's great for us. I don't know if it's great for the way we envision a family. So kind of a toss up. And then I got booked to be the fight coordinator on Ant-Man and the Wasp. So we came out to
That's
Atlanta
awesome.
and we were here for a month. And within a month, we were like, "Yep, this is home. This is where we
Yeah.
want to be as a family." So we moved here, and when I lived in LA, I would work about a quarter of the time in LA and 3/4 of the time somewhere else in the world. Since moving to Atlanta, I get, I'd say, 80 or 90% of my work here in town. So I actually can live at home and you know, only travel for, you know, the jobs that I really want to go travel.
Right. So do you prefer doing the stunt work or the stunt coordination work? And does you having had a child kind of like affect that more?
Well, it definitely changes your mindset. Early on in my career, I had the mindset I will do whatever it takes to rise to the top and be, you know, the best stunt performer I possibly can. And I definitely volunteered for some stunts that were
Yeah, you don't want to be
risky.
Stephen Hawking like with your kid crawling all
So,
over you. You're blowing
Hey,
it.
hey, I'm gonna take that personal in a second, you son of a bitch.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Well,
um,
you know, I'd say it's somewhere around, you know, my 15th year of doing stunts, I started realizing that I'm not completely invincible. I started, you know,
Right.
breaking bones and tearing things. I'm like, okay, well, I definitely do want to be, you know, running and jumping and playing with my kids all the way through, you know, until they're adults. You know, once they're adult, then I could be broken and
so
but, you know, I definitely do think more on the longevity side. As far as which I prefer,
Yeah.
in the beginning, there was no question. I just wanted to perform. That's the only thing that I was passionate about. But as I learned and grew through it, I became addicted to the storytelling side of what we're doing. And as much as I liked telling the story through my movement, and I'm like, okay, well, this guy, you know, I started thinking about how I should move, and then how my opponent should move, and then how the camera should move. I'm like, okay, well, maybe I should fight coordinate so that I can design all of that. So I started fight coordinating and saying, okay, well, we're going to move like this and everything. But then I started saying, okay, well, you know, while we're doing this fight scene, like if we really want to feel like we're downtown, we should be looking more this way and seeing the downtown back there, and it's better lit this way, and you know, this is more cinematic, and you know, so then I started thinking a little bit more like a DP and more second unit directing. So then I'm like, okay, well, now if I'm trying to pick the best shot, that's second unit directing.
Right.
So that.
Might as well get paid for it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But it's also, you know, like the passion has grown and changed along the
Right.
way. Now I feel passionate about telling the story through the movement, through the camera movement, through the way we put the scene together. And it's just like the more I learn, the more I'm able to do. And with that, you kind of grow up the ladder. And at this point in time, I'm the most excited about directing.
Yeah.
I actually saw on your profile you have a couple of directing projects coming up, Brent.
I do. I've been getting a good share of second unit directing over the last couple of years, and now the doors are starting to open for some main unit stuff. This year, I'm going to be directing my first film, Relentless. We've got Thomas Jane as our main character.
Wow.
He's awesome.
He's awesome. Like that. Like he's like the textbook definition of awesome. So I'm really excited about that one. And then I've got a couple other projects that are hopefully kicking off either this year or early next year. And yeah, I'm really gonna kind of jump into the directing side of things. I've got other things that I'm second unit directing, and I'm just equally as passionate about main unit directing and second unit directing.
What would you say the primary differences between being a main unit director and a second unit director?
So the second unit director, basically is focused on just the action, just filming the fight sequences, the car sequences. A lot of times they will also pick up like any pieces that the main unit director didn't get. So if they're shooting a sequence and like, oh, you know what, I never saw this character walk through the door, they just appeared in the room, so we'll have to go back and shoot the main character walking through the door.
Gotcha,
Little pieces.
So making sure you have continuity for the shot is really a big part of that job.
Absolutely. The continuity. And the hardest thing about second unit is a lot of times you'll be directing second unit while the main unit director is directing their unit. So it's very important to just like have an open line of communication between the two units and to have a team that you trust to say, okay, hey, which side of the line were we on when we did this piece? And, like just make sure that it all matches. If there isn't that clear line of communication, it looks like two different movies were shot and kind of meshed together.
Right.
We've seen that, and that's usually not a formula for success.
Exactly.
So I did want to get to a couple more of the viewer questions there.
Yeah, go for it, man.
We did get a few, so I want to make sure
right through them.
Running them. So, what is the worst, or have you ever had an injury on set? I know that you said season 3 of Daredevil kind of kicked your ass a little bit. What would you say the worst injury you've had?
I tore my Achilles, but had a miracle recovery on that. I tore my bicep, had a miracle recovery on that. Even the leg healed very, very fast, but the way it happened, it was definitely the worst injury. In the final fight scene of Daredevil season 3, I had to vault over a railing on a second floor, land on top of a table, and pop off of the table, like kind of midway through the roll, pop off of my shoulders and kick the other character.
It's insane that's your part of your normal day.
Yeah. Well, and that one, I think that is the worst because it was the biggest learning lesson for me. It was a very humbling experience because I can't blame anybody for that. I basically designed the move. I designed the wire rig that I rode to do it. And I was in full control the entire time. I just kept choosing to release myself from the line higher and higher and higher. And, I did 6 takes. The first 5 went perfectly. And then on the 6th one, I just went into it way too arrogant. I did the vault and I was still about 20 feet over the table when I released myself from the line. So it's just a 20-foot drop. I hit the table.
Oh, God.
And then, I kicked the character, finished the shot. They called cut. And then I went to sit back on the table and fell right off of it. And I was like, oh, that's not good.
Damn.
Yeah, I literally got carried to the ambulance by Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio and Wilson Bethel.
Oh, wow.
Our 3 main characters carried me to the ambulance.
So you gotta feel value doing that. Like, okay, you know what?
It was a humbling experience, but
So during the downtime for healing, are you just basically like at no income? I mean, like 'cause you can't do stunts if you got a broken leg, right?
Almost every time I've been seriously injured, I was stunt coordinating. So
so that's good.
Yeah, I mean, I was able to, I directed or I stunt coordinated the entire, everything I did on the last season of Teen Wolf was after I tore my Achilles. So I was on one of those little pirate crutches, kind of hobbling on 1 foot. So I got to coordinate a bunch of episodes of TV with that one.
Yeah, because that would suck if you just break your leg and they're like, well, come back when you're not broken.
Kind of comes in that whole skill set.
On most shows, actually on Daredevil, there were about 2 weeks of filming left. We were filming the final fight scenes, so there wasn't a lot of action left. But what's pretty cool is I got to kind of run the floor a little bit. There were a couple action sequences, and I got to unofficially second unit direct
Gotcha.
a lot of those action sequences. I was kind of laid up anyways, and they didn't just drop me. They were like, we'll still pay for you.
We'll figure out something for you to do.
Yeah. So I got to
how did you transition from actually a stunt performer to a stunt coordinator? How did that happen?
Well, there was a lot of overlap. I mean, while I was still performing, the opportunities were creating themselves. Like, when I was doing Teen Wolf, the TV show, I had two friends that were the stunt coordinators for the show, and basically they would kind of swap back and forth depending on who was in town and who was working on a different project and stuff. And then when they were both busy, they would call me up and say, "Hey, look, I was going to have you double this character for the next episode, but if you're cool with it, we'll just have you coordinate the next episode." So I started, coordinating bits and pieces. I had a lot of like big brothers in the stunt world who gave me opportunities to coordinate. Tim Davison runs 13 different TV shows out in Los Angeles. And when I told him that I really wanted to be a stunt coordinator someday, he started finding me all of these spots because, again, he was running 13 different TV shows. So there were many, many opportunities where he's like, "Hey, I've got 2 shows over on Paramount today. I'm going to get these 2. Can you cover me over on Fox? I've got, this TV show." So I started getting little bits and pieces. I got to coordinate like 1 day here and 2 days there. And then just as time went on, through Daredevil, people started seeing that I was coordinating even though I was there as the stunt double. So by the end of the first season, I was also getting stunt coordinator credit. And then all of season 2, all of season 3, and on Defenders, I was getting stunt coordinator credit because I was stunt coordinating and fight coordinating and doubling Charlie. So
right, that's awesome.
Great.
Yeah,
that's great. And actually, that kind of leads into because you've been doing so much. What are your top 3 actors that you've doubled for?
Top 3, I mean, I got to say Charlie. Just I genuinely, without blowing smoke, and obviously I'm biased, but I think he's one of the best actors in the world. I learned so much from watching what he did to become Matt Murdock, like watching him go in there, from the physical side where, I mean, like you look at him playing Matt Murdock, you think he's blind. He literally like just has a way of kind of staring off and looking like his eyes are just not activated at all. His mannerisms, there's just so many layers of thought behind everything he does. So he definitely is on that list. Robert Downey Jr. is Robert Downey Jr. Like one of the most unique and amazing human beings on the planet. I did one scene where I was doubling Guy Pearce, and I had to like come crashing through the floor. And as I crashed through the floor and started like pulling myself out of the ground, the entire crew started laughing hysterically. And I had no idea what was going on, but he kept a dead, like a perfect stare at me, and like he stayed in the scene, and we finished this entire scene. And after the scene, the director Shane Black called me over to the monitor and he's like, "Bruce, you gotta watch this." And as I came through the floor, I had this long like Ken doll wig on, and the whole wig went straight up. I looked like a troll doll, and I had no idea. And everybody in the room was just cracking up, but like Robert didn't break. He literally was able to hold it the entire time, and like he was a legend. I mean, he's so cool.
Yeah, I've heard that he likes to improv on set because he does become the character. So I can see that happening.
I witnessed that. They were, just about every scene. He'd go in, he'd go, "Hey, I've got some ideas. Just run the line. And he'd just like, keep the cameras running, and somebody would say something. He's like, "Cool, I'll just throw something else at me," and like there was one really, really good scene where his kung fu instructor, Eric Oram, was one of the characters in one of the scenes. And obviously they know each other very well. They've worked together a whole lot and stuff. So he told Eric, he was like, "Hey, come at me, just give me something." Each time Eric would like come charging in the room and he'd say something different. And no matter what he said, Robert would have like a really, really good quippy line to throw right back at him. I was just like, "Oh, it's so good."
Nice.
So good.
That's great. That's great. All right, so let's see here.
We only got 2. What's your third?
Third.
Oh.
Who else do you love? Or you could give
You
us.
just wanted to say your name, Chris. Don't worry about it. It's not going to happen.
I mean, if there's somebody that you didn't have fun doing, that would be fine too.
No, I genuinely, I've been very blessed to where like the actors that I've doubled have all been awesome. Like, really. So
as far as, I mean, if not the actor, was there ever a job that you just did not enjoy, like that maybe it was like tougher on your body, or you know what I mean? Not like a bad thing about like anybody in particular, but just like the job itself was just not great.
So yes and no. I recently worked on a show that it was one of those like best of times, worst of times situations because um, I spent the majority of my time doing non-action stuff. You know, there was just there's always arguments about budget, arguments about um, just political things, you know, and
Right.
there's lots of stuff. And I'm like, you know, out of an 8-hour day, I'm only spending about 1 hour focused on stunt stuff. Everything else is very, you know,
Right, like just backstage drama.
yeah. So it was weird, but I have to say, my entire career, every bad situation has actually turned into a good one because on that specific show, I just had so much like I bonded so closely with my stunt team. You know, we all had to rely on each other so heavily because it's like, you know, we were each wearing multiple hats, and you know, it was the kind of situation where I couldn't have done it alone, and you know, my team kind of all like, you know, just really bonded around me and supported me through the entire thing, and I did everything I could to support every one of them, and it's one of those things that like, you know, if I was by myself and didn't have that team, it would have been a bad experience. But it turned out to be this really amazing and wonderful experience because of that.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, like literally, you know, from the beginning of my career, every bad experience that I've ever had has kind of turned into a good thing. I mean, even the injuries, you know, even you know, every time I got injured, it just kind of opened the door to me doing more stunt coordinating. In fact,
Right, exactly. It took you out from in front of the camera. They had to find something for you, so that became like your new, yeah.
yeah, I mean, I have a friend in Atlanta, Tom Williams, who he's a big stunt coordinator. He was doing Doom Patrol at the time, and you know, I called him up and I was like, hey, you know, I'm done with Daredevil. I'm back in town. And he's like, cool. I'm going to bring you onto my show and we'll have you fight coordinate my show and maybe double one of my characters and stuff. I'm like, cool. I'm probably not going to be flipping for another couple of weeks. He's like, why? What happened? I told him, like, oh, I broke my leg. You know, I'm, you know, mostly healed, but you know,
Just 2 weeks. I'll be good. No.
yeah, pretty much. And ironically, he's like, well, that might be perfect. I just got called by a producer I know who's looking for a coordinator for a feature film and whatever. And long story short, I got the job because, you know, rather than using me on his show, he's like, well, if you're injured and you need to take some time away from hitting the ground, go run the show. So I did that, and you know, that led to other shows. And yeah, I mean, I really feel like it's a weird like life lesson where, you know, when something bad happens, if you kind of keep your eyes open, something good could come out of even the worst experience, you know.
Cool. Now, it looks like I know you've already kind of answered this already, but people want to know what do you do when you're not being a stuntman?
Not being a stuntman, well, I've got 2 kids and a wife, and I mean that's my life.
So then you're always a stunt man because they're just
Well,
jumping on you, tackling.
not as much as they are.
Dude.
You're back flipping into breakfast.
Listen,
I mean, I think I'm always a stunt coordinator because, you know, I've got an almost 2-year-old who tries to find the highest thing in the room that he can climb onto and then
oh my gosh,
fall off. So I'm always, you know, aware of what he could get injured on.
You're like, if you're gonna jump off the house, at least put a pillow down. Jesus.
Exactly.
So my youngest son, he's just turned 6, and Liam has no fear of anything at all, and this motherfucker will scare the crap out of me on a constant basis. He has gotten on the back of the toilet to swat a fly and dive off of it, hit the towel rack, the ceramic part of the towel rack, with his head, walk away without like a slight bruise. He plays parkour off of the furniture.
Yep.
You know, if there's a corner or he needs to fall into something after, you know, play fighting with one of my buddies or myself, and you know, he finds a way to fall and hurt himself. So, you know, I still at 6, he still scares the crap out of me. I know he knows how to fall now, but I mean, I can only imagine that too. It's probably the same thing. I mean,
Well, the good thing is he's already halfway through his stunt training.
I
you
used
know, I
to
don't want him
when
to
my
end up like his
daughter
old
was
man
kid,
because
He'll be an expert.
oh,
I used
probably.
to teach my daughter how to fake take a hit and spin off and fall when she was like 2 on our bed. Like I'd like fake slap her so she'd like spin off and fall.
Yeah, same. My daughter. I mean, I've got videos of her when she was like 6 months old doing that, where I just throw punches and make the sound, and she go and fall over.
Nice. You see that? And to be honest, that's those are good life lessons. You know, you when you learn how to fall and you know how to take a punch, you can that's half of your negative interactions in life right there. You know how to do those things, you're in good shape.
Exactly. You got nothing to fear.
So one of the next questions they want to know. Got a couple of them that are kind of similar, so I'm just gonna combo them together. But what is your favorite type of stunt to do, or what and what movie or show have you had the most fun working on stunts on?
My favorite stunt to do would be fight sequences. Just one, I feel like that's always been my specialty. So it's the one thing that I think I do, better than the other things. And to me, doing a fight scene, you can tell more of a story. I mean, fire stunts are awesome, everything, but I mean, you're on fire. There's not too much more that you can add to that story. Whereas
Right.
being like every single punch can be different. You can throw a punch like you're a defensive fighter. You can throw a punch like you're angry. You can throw a punch like your entire life depends on it. Like one move can be played in a million different ways, so you can actually tell a story with it. Whereas some of the bigger stunts,
Yeah, you're on fire. You're like, what's this guy thinking? He's probably thinking, oh God, I'm on fire.
there's not as much depth to that character. You are the guy that's on fire.
I would like to not be on fire.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody put me out.
Motivation is not being on fire anymore. And then as far as my favorite job to work on, literally the most fun experience I've ever had on a project was a film that's coming out in April on Renfield. I got to second unit direct and stunt coordinate that. I had my this amazing crew around me, both my stunt team and the entire production team. I mean, every department head. The director is Chris McKay. He is a legend. I mean, the guy is one of my favorite people ever to work with. Just every single person that worked on that film was awesome, and the experience was incredible. We had Nick Holt playing Renfield, Nick Cage playing Dracula.
Right.
It was amazing. Just
I mean, how off the reservation bonkers was Nick Cage running around? Like,
when they first told me that he was going to be Dracula, I was just so curious.
that is the craziest casting I have ever.
Well, and it's Nick Cage. Like he could hit any area.
Right.
I'm like, I really wonder how he's going to play this. And we did a Zoom with him. I was sitting in Chris McKay's office, and Chris was kind of talking to him really about like Dracula's movement and how he saw the character physically. And Nick was like, "Hey, while I have you on this, want to run through some lines and play with a few things." And I saw how he was like, what he was bringing to this character. And I mean, I literally was just sitting in the room like, I can't believe I'm here watching this. This is amazing. And like the second I saw that, I'm like, this movie's going to be out of this world. So.
Oh yeah, he's all over the place. Like he does, like the whole face off Castor Troy thing. He was ridiculous, and then like straight up action. Like,
oh yeah, I mean he can do anything, and I mean he's definitely the kind of character who. You don't have to worry about him coming in and playing the same character that he always plays.
Right. You could just put bees all over him.
Yeah, like this Dracula is not like any Nick Cage character that you've ever seen before, and I mean he is just so good.
That's awesome.
I'll definitely have to take that.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna have to check that out. We'll give you a full review. And let's see the next one here. What is the hardest or craziest stunt that you've done during your career?
Well, I did a movie called Fright Night. It was a remake of like the '85 Fright Night,
Mhm.
but I did the one with Anton Yelchin and Colin Farrell, and I was doubling Anton. The entire final fight scene, we were on fire.
Oh
So
my god!
we did, in a matter of 3 days, we did 36 full body burns and 22 partial burns. And the entire time, myself and Colin Farrell's stunt double, Mark Wagner, we were basically tied to each other. Because in the story, Anton's character lights himself, tackles Colin's character, and then hooks the two of them together so that he can't escape. So
Right.
literally, it's like we're flying around the room because Colin's a vampire, and as he's like flying through the room, we're attached and we're just smashing into walls and spinning through the air and going up, hitting the ceiling, dropping down, hitting the floor, and we're on fire the entire time.
Oh my gosh! All right, and let's see. Last couple here on the user list here. I've got. Let's see here. Is there a stunt that you haven't had a chance to do that you've always wanted to try?
No, I have one fight scene that I choreographed that I thought was going to be like the most viral fight scene of all time. Obviously, the Daredevil oneers were quite large and got a lot of notoriety. So
Right. They made it where every Marvel thing they were like, we got to have that shot, you know?
exactly. So going into season 4, like we wrapped season 3, and before they announced that we got cut, there was no doubt in my mind. I'm like, all 3 seasons were huge successes. So I'm like, we're going to get a 4th season. So my team and I got together and we wanted to preempt the next season. So we choreographed the most insane one-shot fight sequence. I think it would have gone down in history. It was just the coolest fight scene ever. So I'm looking for, I was assuming if this season went, then we would have somewhere to put that fight scene. But now that I'm not on it, we will not. So now I'm going to find a better place to put that fight scene.
There you go. All right, man. That's great. I'm actually curious to see that because if it's topping the one, I can only imagine what the.
Hands down, we took every element of what made the first fight amazing, the second fight amazing, and the third fight amazing, and we found how to amp it up. And basically, we had a lot more time to think of where we could do the Texas switches and how we can, kind of distort the reality a little bit.
And what is that exactly?
The Texas switches are basically like throughout any of the one-shot fight sequences, to keep the camera rolling and still find spots for me to be able to do the stunt so that Charlie's not getting like slammed on his head or
Right.
flip around or do something. We have these spots within the fight where, basically the camera loses Charlie for just a split second. By the time
you slide,
it's now me. So we just switch between me and him. So we got really, really creative ones. Like when we did the season 3 one shot, we were in the prison and we had a couple Texas switches that people were not able to find. And like even years later, people don't know about like 1 or 2 of them.
right?
Whereas in this one, there were way more Texas switches and they were way more cleverly hidden. So like we had it put together in a way knowing that people were going to go by and frame by frame. And I'm like, even frame by frame, they won't be able to see where we switched.
So do you plan on trying to maybe slide that into something at some point?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're like, I'm doing that.
It was months and months of like, I had a little notebook that I kept for all 3 seasons of Daredevil where I was just throwing every idea I had into it. And then I
thought I was the only one that did that. That makes me feel better.
You're like, here's what, like Owen Wilson is going to have a fight scene.
Yep. I doubled him too. Doubled.
I know. That's why. You're like, Mobius is going to throw down hard. Season 2 of Loki.
I actually, for me, I think the most exciting thing would be to do that one-shot fight scene, but completely tailor make it for a different character now. Because like I know,
right, with your movements and style.
Yeah, there's no character that I know better than Daredevil. But now it'll be really fun to take something that is completely made for him, but fully redesign every moment, every nuance of that fight for a new character, and just kind of
you know what you need to do, Chris? What you need to do, because of this whole like Daredevil Reborn or whatever slight, you need to get with James Gunn and just become the DC guy now.
Well,
like, yeah, because think about it, man. Like I said, no ego, right? You seem pretty humble and grounded, but all the shows that did well, you were doing stunts on, and all the ones not so well didn't seem like you were. So maybe that's going to be like Daredevil's going to go down in flames. Sorry, Charlie, right? You have to call him and be like, hey, man, it's not my fault. And then just start rocking all the because they're gonna do the TV and movies all connected. I saw you already got your foot in the door with the Black Adam, so
yeah. Hey, I mean, I am definitely.
Maybe you're gonna be Batman now. Who knows?
Pattinson's a little tall for me, but we'll see who else they bring in. But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely looking for the next character, whether it's superhero or
is there anybody you would like to play that's like is going to be coming out like somebody that is in the superhero thing, or anybody, just any character that you like, dream character to play on any type of media? Like, is there anybody you have in mind?
No, so for me, it's I don't have any specific character. Like for me, what Daredevil had, I for a while I really wanted to double Moon Knight, because there are two characters that have depth to them.
Right.
I didn't enjoy the choreography side for Captain America, because like the depth to Captain America is like I'm gonna do the right thing because that's what I do.
You were not Moon Knight, right? Like that's
no. I a good friend of mine was like the second unit director for it. I mean, they shot overseas and didn't bring a team. But that was one. That's another character like Daredevil who has like so many layers, and like to me, like the characters that walk the line between good guy and bad guy. The thing is, like, Daredevil gets to the point where whoever he's fighting is no longer a threat, but like he wants to hurt the bad guys. Like there's in there he's not doing what's right. Like he should hit him, knock him unconscious, and then give them to the cops. But he's like, I'm going to make sure. He's like, he knows that justice isn't always served, and the cops might let this guy go. So like he'll hit him once, they get knocked out, and then there's moments where you see he's like, I'm still gonna
right. He's throwing 3 more rapid fire face shots.
Yeah, and that's what was like the most fun part for me. Moon Knight, obviously, there's so many layers of that character. You don't know if he's crazy. You don't know if he's telling, like whether he's just imagining all of this or whether this is happening. Like it's just a multiple, like a very layered character. That's what I like to work with. I like, and pretty much any character that has really been like just completely thought out. Those are those like the real blessings as like an action designer, because when somebody else has put a lot of thought into the character, there's a lot more for you to work with when you're putting your thought into the character.
Nice.
So what you're saying is Jensen Ackles should be Red Hood and you should be stunt doubling it.
I mean, after seeing him in in The Boys, I would watch him in anything.
Hey,
right?
I'm with you. Dude,
I would love to see you get into that.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
Yes.
We do have one last question that a user submitted here. They want to know what kind of training you would need to get into your type of stunt work.
Well, there's a lot of different paths. Like to get into the stunt world, literally you need a SAG card. That's the only like requirement. To be a working and usable stunt person, the kind of training you want. Every fight scene, every movie will have a fight scene and will have a fall. So you got to know how to fall and hit the ground without actually hurting yourself. You have to know how to like sell a punch, whether you're giving the punch or taking the punch. So a little bit of martial arts training, falling. Whether if you take any kind of martial art will teach you how to fall without getting hurt. A little bit of acting. A simple acting class. And then you get into like the the add-ons. There's stunt driving clinics that you can learn how to slide a car and do all of that. There's like action stunt camps where you can learn how to do a fire burn, you can learn how to ride a wire, that kind of stuff. A lot of that stuff you actually learn on set, but overall general performance, being able to see where the camera is, know how to stack a hit for that camera, know how to look like you got punched in the face and fall over.
Right.
Those are the basic requirements.
How would you suggest somebody go about getting their SAG card to get into stunts if they're not really looking to act?
Well, if you're trying to get into the stunt world, the best thing you could possibly do is to meet other stunt people. It used to be you had to move to Los Angeles or New York or somewhere where there was a big stunt population. If you do live somewhere where there are films going on, stunt people normally kind of navigate to the gymnastics gyms. There's like open gyms where you can fall in the big foam pits. There's pads to fall on, spring.
Yeah, we're in Tampa, which it's not as popular a destination for like filming because the state kind of killed that.
Yeah.
But in terms of like learning, I always tell people there's a million wrestlers out here. Yeah. Go where they're at and you're going to learn to fall.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So it's like, it's connecting with them. And now that social media is just worldwide and just, insanely accessible, just finding stunt people, seeing, what they do for training, whatever, it's connecting that way is always really good. And, you can go on any social media and just look up stunts and whatever town you live in or whatever state you live in. And, people will be posting, hey, stunt training from here and there. Finding other stunt people, if they're working, they can give you advice. And if they're also aspiring stunt people, they can, get together with you and like practice fight scenes. Literally the best thing you can do if you're trying to get into stunt work is get somebody who wants to get into stunt work with you and film yourself doing fights. It's the best learning tool you can ever have because you can actually watch yourself and see what looks good, what doesn't look good. And you also have something that you can show. If you meet other stunt people, you can say, hey, something I did. Once your talent is at a certain level, it's really just a matter of putting yourself out there because there's a lot of work. And once you have something to show people what you're capable of, it's just kind of getting your reel and your information to as many stunt people as you possibly can. And when somebody needs some extra help,
so effectively you hopefully can slide in like on a non-union type thing and then land your SAG card that way, just specifically in stunts? Or
well, with any like work for hire states like Georgia, I can bring a stunt person onto one of my shows. I can hire a stunt person who's not SAG.
Gotcha. And then they can get
work for hire state. And if they do a couple of days working on a SAG show, they will become SAG eligible.
Nice. Okay.
Other things you can do if you are, trying to become SAG, if you're working on like a short film, a lot of times, there's up and coming stunt people who are either stunt performers that want to become stunt coordinators. They want to shoot a short film, or if they want to get into fight coordinating. A lot of times people can't actually pay a full day rate. But, if you want to get into stunts, they could say, hey, I can taft you in on this project. So then that way, you're basically paying for 3 days of somebody being an extra and then paying for, it's like,
right.
a nominal amount to actually put somebody on the Taft-Hartley and get them into SAG. So, there's definitely ways to do it. But, they all kind of just revolve around finding a stunt community and connecting as much as you can.
It sounds like Atlanta is a place if you're looking to go.
Right. Well, remember Mike Reed like moved out there a couple of times because it was kind of up and coming as far as that went. So we have, some of our actor friends were like, Atlanta's the hot new place. Cause I'm sure that if you've ever done work in Tampa was pretty popular for a while. Right.
Yeah.
But then they started they killed all the incentives.
Yeah.
And it's like, guys, are you trying to make sure that this industry leaves?
Yeah. Then it went from Tampa to New Orleans, New Orleans was really, really hot for about 4 or 5 years. And then they did the same thing and they dropped the incentives. So then all the work came to Atlanta. The only difference between Atlanta and like either New Orleans or Florida, it just has a better infrastructure, you know, I mean, just with the Delta hub being here and stuff.
Right.
So I think even when, you know, the incentive goes away or anything like that, you know, obviously hurt the business, but
Right.
we'll still have a good amount. And, you know, I mean, people have just invested so much. I mean,
Right. Well, it's funny, right? We watch all these like states just keep making the same mistake. They're like, they think that they're special. They go, well, historically, every time a state drops incentives for Hollywood, like they, you know, everybody picks up and leaves. But that's not going to happen to us.
Yep.
I mean, I get that there are going to be times, like for instance, in Florida, that Florida's got a very specific look, you know?
Yeah.
So there's always going to be some things that are going to come here just to get that, but they're going to do as little filming as possible in the place that doesn't give them the kickback, you know?
Yep. Makes sense. Well, Chris, hey man, listen, it has been a real pleasure. I know we kept you on for an hour and a half. I think we got overbooked you a little bit there, man. I'm sorry about that.
We watched the little sunlight go away.
Went from super backlit to just completely in the dark. But
all right, yeah, well, we're gonna have to distort your voice, and that way we'll keep your identity secret.
Perfect.
But yeah, no, absolute pleasure for sure. Like I mean, you know, learning experience. Like you're just an awesome guy in general to talk to. So
thank you.
And anytime that we can do this again, man, I'm more than happy to do it. It was amazing speaking with you. And when your new projects get released, we'll definitely have to hook up again and talk to you about those things.
Amazing. I can't wait. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, man.
Brother. Thank you.
Have a great night.
You too.
Take care.